Sam Bankman-Fried never looked like a typical billionaire. He wasn't raised in some fancy penthouse surrounded by art and crystal and enough money to buy his own country. In fact, he grew up in a Berkeley frat house, surrounded by books and board games and old white dudes yelling about politics. Not exactly a breeding ground for the most influential man in crypto. But that's exactly what he became. And to this day, not many people understand how he was born in 1992 to Stanford professors and spent his childhood bouncing between countries, continents, and ideologies. He learned math from his parents and poker from his dad. At age 12, he read Thomas Sowell's A Conflict of Visions and decided capitalism was right. Then he went to MIT and dropped out at 18 to work at Bloomberg. And while other billionaires chased fancy schools, we don't know where he went because it doesn't matter. All that matters is that Sam wanted to make money, and he started looking for problems to solve. The year was 2017 and the world was still wary of cryptocurrencies. Most exchanges were dingy websites full of sketchy dealers and hackers. Exchanges needed better branding, a more sophisticated edge, and that's when Sam founded FTX. The website had a clean design, an intuitive app, and an impressive team. Many investors believed Sam was the next Warren Buffett. Others said he was a mix of Bill Gates and Michael Jordan, and they weren't wrong. In less than 3 years, FTX hit a valuation of $32 billion, and no one thought that was surprising. After all, Sam wasn't just building a crypto exchange. He was building a movement, a revolution that would replace traditional finance. Or so everyone thought, because hidden behind the slick branding and celebrity endorsements, there was a whole other business. A company called Alameda Research. Now on paper, Alameda was independent. It had a separate CEO, a separate staff, and separate offices in Hong Kong. But in reality, it was tightly controlled by Sam. He set the strategy, he hired the staff, and he funneled billions from FTX to Alameda through shell companies and secret offshore accounts. And no one noticed because Sam sold FTX as the safe alternative to unsafe crypto exchanges. He told reporters, if you want to go put your money on an exchange, but you're like, I want to go and put my money on an exchange, but I don't want to get mugged or hacked or have someone steal my money, you should come to us. And that message resonated with millions. FTX exploded in popularity. Hollywood celebrities started buying in, so did basketball legends and former presidents. Celebrities made videos about FTX, celebrities bought ads about FTX. It seemed like everyone was getting rich off FTX except those who got mugged or hacked. In reality, FTX barely made any profit. But Sam didn't care about profit. He wanted power, he wanted influence. So he took FTX public. Now technically, FTX wasn't a public company. It was privately owned by a group of venture capital firms, but Sam needed them to keep pouring in money, so he convinced them to award him the keys to the kingdom. By signing an unusual document called a regulatory, he essentially gave investors the right to sue him if they lost money. And they did. Over time, FTX grew rapidly, but so did its losses. By 2022, sources estimated they had lost over $1 billion. But Sam didn't care. He kept expanding. He spent billions on marketing and brand partnerships, and soon FTX was everywhere. They signed a $1.7 billion deal with the Miami Heat. They opened an arena. They launched a casino, and they launched a Super Bowl ad campaign. On the surface, FTX was unstoppable, but beneath the flashy exterior, things were falling apart. Their main source of revenue was Alameda Research, a crypto hedge fund run by Sam's ex-girlfriend, Caroline Ellison. And her job was simple: make big trades, generate profits, and give Sam his cut. But she wasn't just making money. She was stealing it. She siphoned off customer deposits, moved it to Alameda, and gambled it on insane high-stakes trades. Meanwhile, FTX was running out of cash. Their new investments weren't generating returns, and customers started noticing. At first, withdrawals were delayed by a few hours or days, but eventually they stopped altogether. On November 6, 2022, the situation was dire. They only had $900 million in cash, but $9 billion in customer withdrawals. So Sam desperately reached out to their rival Binance, hoping they would bail him out. He offered them a 44% stake in FTX and control of Alameda Research. But Binance turned him down. They said FTX had mishandled customer funds and refused to help. For a moment, it looked like FTX was done, but Sam came up with a plan. He told the media that Binance was trying to screw him and vowed to repay every customer. He even released internal documents to prove it, but it was a lie. Sam had doctored the documents and leaked them himself. The only goal: delay the inevitable. 2 days later, FTX filed for bankruptcy. Customers lost billions, investors lost billions, celebrities lost millions. And overnight, Sam Bankman-Fried lost his fortune. People were furious. They stormed the FTX offices, smashed computers, ripped down posters, and walked away with desk chairs and door handles. Then the news broke. Despite losing billions, Sam had transferred millions to private accounts, purchased expensive homes in the Bahamas, donated millions to politicians, and showered friends with gifts. It was the classic move of a con artist. He spent other people's money, then blamed them for his crimes. But one question remained: how did no one see this coming? Well, let's start with the media. Journalists constantly praised Sam. They called him the crypto genius. They interviewed him about economics and politics. And some outlets even posted jobs at FTX. Then there were the investors. Venture capitalists pumped billions into FTX, private equity firms bought stakes in the company, and even banks like Goldman Sachs encouraged their clients to invest in crypto. But no one bothered checking whether FTX was even real. They just saw a promising young billionaire, so they kept pouring in money. Then there were the regulators. Gary Gensler, chairman of the SEC, failed to stop FTX despite clear evidence of fraud. And it wasn't just negligence, it was fear. Regulators didn't want to hurt the crypto market. They didn't want to crush the new financial system, so they turned a blind eye to FTX's excesses. And finally, there was the board. Ken Griffin, one of the richest men in the world, chaired the board, and he didn't notice that FTX was a Ponzi scheme. Nishad Singh, a partner at Sequoia Capital, sat on the board, and he didn't notice that FTX was stealing from customers. And Arthur Young, the audit firm responsible for signing off on FTX's financials, didn't notice that FTX was a multi-billion-dollar fraud. They all turned a blind eye to FTX because it was the golden child. It was the next big thing. It was the future of finance. And that brings us back to Sam Bankman-Fried. Here's the crazy thing. He wasn't just smart, he was strategic. He knew how to attract investors, regulators, and journalists. He knew how to make politicians look good, and he knew how to manipulate markets. But here's the thing. He wasn't just manipulating markets, he was manipulating people. He positioned himself as the awkward nerd. He projected an image of incompetence and weakness. He spoke in memes and jargon. He dressed in rumpled clothes and scuffed sneakers, and the media loved it. They celebrated him for being authentic, for being himself, but that was exactly his strength. He exploited our desire for authenticity. We love the guy who's just being himself, who's honest, who's transparent, and Sam was the perfect embodiment of that. He was the billionaire who didn't need money. He was the genius who didn't need validation. He was the crypto pioneer who didn't need praise, and that made him trustworthy. It made us believe in him. It made us overlook red flags. It made us ignore obvious warning signs. Because in the end, FTX wasn't just a fraud, it was a social experiment. It tested our obsession with authenticity, our thirst for financial revolution, and our willingness to overlook red flags. And unfortunately, it seems like Sam Bankman-Fried passed that test. Today, he sits in jail facing up to 100 years in prison, but his story has lessons for all of us. Don't believe everything you see, be careful who you trust. And don't chase returns without understanding the risk. Those are simple lessons. We all know them deep down. But maybe we also need to remember that sometimes the biggest risks come from the most unlikely sources. The awkward nerds wearing rumpled clothes and scuffed sneakers. They're the ones who break the rules, who make the headlines, and who ultimately change the world. You know, I've been thinking about doing something really cool, like creating an interactive version of this entire world, a whole universe where you can explore all these ideas firsthand. It'd be like a video game, but instead of levels and quests, you'd unlock entire economic systems. Let me give you an example. Imagine you found yourself in the middle of a medieval village. Your job is to build a business, but there's a catch. You can only use the tools and resources available in the Middle Ages. You have to find merchants willing to take a cut of your profits. You have to manage your inventory. You have to negotiate prices. And along the way, you learn how medieval economies work. And it gets more complicated. As you progress, you can unlock new eras and new technologies. Industrial revolution, technological disruption, artificial intelligence, and each era comes with its own challenges. Natural disasters, market crashes, pandemics. Your job is to adapt, to lead your business through these crises and keep growing. And the goal isn't just to survive, it's to thrive. To turn a small village business into a global enterprise, you have to master the skills that CEOs learn in real life, make tough decisions, balance competing priorities, and adapt to unpredictable events. And the whole time you get feedback. If you make good decisions, your business grows. If you make bad decisions, well, you might get bankrupted. But here's the best part. It's not just about learning how businesses work. It's about seeing how economies evolve. You'll witness the shift from agrarian societies to industrial hubs, the rise and fall of superpowers, and the impact of each era's defining moments. It's a unique blend of entertainment and education. And what makes it special is that you learn by doing. You don't just watch a video about economies, you experience it firsthand, and there's no better way to learn. I hope you liked this idea. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Anyway, thanks for watching.